The house was quiet in a way that felt heavier than noise, as if the walls themselves were holding their breath, and she stood there, in the center of the room, feeling the echo of a life that once filled every corner with warmth and laughter. She remembered when this space carried voices, memories, footsteps, and dreams, and now it carried only silence. And she wondered how silence could be so loud, how it could press against the chest and make breathing feel like work. She had lost so much that even counting it felt pointless, yet she stood, because standing was all she knew how to do when everything else had fallen away. She had not always been this woman, standing alone with her thoughts. She had been someone who believed in forever, in promises spoken softly at night, in plans made with hopeful smiles. She believed that love was enough, that effort would always be returned, that kindness would protect her from loss. But life has a way of teaching lessons without warning, and the lessons often come wrapped in heartbreak. She learned that love can leave without explanation, that effort can be taken for granted, and that kindness does not guarantee safety. Yet even then, something inside her refused to disappear. There were days when she woke up unsure of who she was without the roles she once carried, days when the mirror reflected a stranger whose eyes looked tired yet awake, alert, watchful. She learned to recognize that look. It was the look of someone who has been hurt but not defeated, the look of someone who has cried enough tears to understand their own strength, even if they did not yet believe in it fully. She remembered the moment everything changed, how quickly the ground beneath her seemed to disappear, how one sentence, one action, one truth revealed could erase years in a heartbeat. She did not scream, she did not collapse, she simply felt a quiet break inside, like something precious cracking without sound, and from that moment on, life asked more of her than she ever thought she could give. Loss does not always arrive as a single event. Sometimes it comes in waves, taking a little more each time, until you wake up one morning and realize you barely recognize your life. She lost her sense of safety, her trust in others, her belief that tomorrow would always be better than today. She lost routines that once comforted her, dreams that once guided her, and people she once leaned on. But even as everything slipped through her fingers, something invisible remained, holding her steady. Courage does not always look like bravery. Sometimes it looks like getting out of bed when the heart feels too heavy. Sometimes it looks like choosing to stay soft in a world that has been hard to you. Sometimes it looks like silence and endurance and quiet determination. She did not announce her strength, she lived it, one breath at a time. There were nights when sleep refused to come, when memories replayed like scenes from a story she never agreed to star in. She questioned herself, her choices, her worth. She wondered if she could have done more, been more, changed something, anything to stop the pain. But eventually she learned that not every ending is a failure, and not every loss is a reflection of who we are. She learned to sit with her pain instead of running from it. She allowed herself to feel the grief fully, without shame. She cried when she needed to. She rested when her body asked for it. And she spoke kindly to herself, even when no one else did. In those quiet moments, she began to rebuild, not the life she lost, but the woman she was becoming. Strength grew slowly, like a seed pushing through hard soil, unseen at first but persistent. She found it in small victories, in moments of peace, in the realization that she was still here, still breathing, still capable of love, even after everything she had endured. She found it in choosing hope when despair felt easier. As time passed, she noticed changes, subtle but powerful. She no longer measured her worth by who stayed or who left. She no longer waited for permission to take up space. She began to understand that her value had always been hers, that it could not be taken by loss or diminished by heartbreak. This understanding did not erase the pain, but it gave it meaning. She learned that healing is not linear, that some days would feel light and others would feel heavy again, and that this did not mean she was moving backward, it meant she was human. She allowed herself grace on the hard days and gratitude on the gentle ones, and slowly she began to trust herself again. There were moments when fear tried to return, whispering that she would lose everything again, that happiness was temporary, that safety was an illusion, but courage answered back, reminding her that she had survived before and she would survive again, not because life would be kinder, but because she was stronger. She started to dream again, quietly at first, dreams not of perfection but of peace, not of having everything, but of being enough. She dreamed of mornings without dread, of laughter that came easily, of connections built on honesty and respect. She dreamed of a life where her heart could rest. In choosing to move forward, she did not forget what she had lost. She carried those memories with care, honoring the love that once existed and the lessons it taught. She understood that loss had shaped her, but it did not define her, and this understanding freed her in ways she never expected. There is a quiet power in choosing yourself after the world has tried to break you. There is courage in continuing to believe in goodness, even when you have seen its absence. She became a testament to that power, not through loud declarations, but through the way she lived with integrity, compassion, and resilience. She found joy in simple things, in sunlight through a window, in the warmth of a cup held between her hands, in moments of connection that felt real and safe. These moments reminded her that happiness did not have to be grand to be meaningful, it simply had to be honest. As she moved through the world, she carried a softness that surprised people who knew her story. They expected bitterness, anger, walls. Instead, they found empathy, understanding, and strength. She had learned that protecting her heart did not require closing it, and that kindness could coexist with tenderness. She became a quiet source of comfort to others, not by fixing their pain, but by sitting with it, by listening without judgment, by reminding them through her presence that survival was possible, that even after losing everything, one could still stand. In her reflection, she now saw not just loss, but survival, not just pain, but growth. She saw a woman who had faced the worst and chosen to keep going, a woman who had lost much, but never lost herself. Her story was not of perfection or easy endings. It was a story of endurance, of learning to live with scars without letting them define the future. It was a story of courage that did not shout, but whispered persistently, "You are still here, you are still capable, you are still worthy." And as she stepped into each new day, she carried that whisper with her, allowing it to guide her through uncertainty, through hope, through whatever came next. She understood now that courage was not the absence of fear, but the decision to move forward despite it. She lost everything, but she never lost her courage, and in that truth she found her power, her peace, and the quiet confidence to begin again.